G'day everyone and welcome to this week's episode of Ask Simmo. Thanks to ECU, thanks to everyone who wrote in questions this week to the senior coach. We will get to them in just a moment, but as always, Simmo, I'd steal the limelight for just a little moment.
What's happened now?
No, nothing's happened. I'm done. I'm retired. Don't worry. Again.
Your wardrobe's...
Tell me.
Yeah,
Happy
it's changing everywhere. I can't work you out.
I actually had... I can't talk about it. Some makers of this. I'm not going to do a cheap plug here, but this was sent in by a listener of this show who was just felt you were just going a bit hard on the wardrobe. So he sent this in.
Okay.
Made from wool, sustainable fabric. I won't say the brand though, but I like it.
What is the brand? Tell me.
No, I'm not going to. I'll speak about it later.
You don't know it.
Yeah, correct. Thank you very much, Simmo. Now, I wanted to ask you about the game on the weekend, and I was reflecting on sort of my time playing in sides that weren't winning. And that's what the club's doing at the moment. What do you think the main thing is that players are learning right now?
It's a good question. It's probably what you coach as well, because you can try and chase the win, which obviously we're desperate to, but we've got some things we really want to stick to with how we want to play. So that sometimes could be at the expense of trying to slow a game down or clog up the back line, and we'll definitely do that. But we're trying to play a certain way. So the education's always around your contest method, how you want to, your running patterns, how we want to defend as a team, all the things that you've been a part of over the years. There is a temptation to go, let's stop all that for a second and just try and clog this up, and that's when you run the risk of a blowout. And unfortunately, we can't stop momentum at the moment. There's certain triggers we're pulling that aren't working, but they will. But at the moment, it's a bit of a grind to do that. So, yeah, they're probably learning our way. That's what I'd probably, in a long way, answer it.
The momentum element was the next question I had around. Okay, we can see on the scoreboard and run-ons, you can see that with your eyes, no matter if you're an expert or not, that momentum's an issue. And you spoke a lot about momentum. To me, it was really a new concept for me, to be honest, you coming to the football club. So momentum with a younger side, how do you actually get better at that? Is it just seeing more situations in games? Is it leadership on the field with players? Is it things you do from the coach's box?
Probably all three. Identifying it is pretty easy. And then doing something about it from the coach's box probably takes a while to see actually a response on field. So
the example would be Prestea kicking 3 goals in 6
and
minutes.
They came from 3 different avenues, but largely the stoppages was the issue in those 3 plays, or the source started there. So you change personnel, we go to a different stoppage structure, but probably don't do much more than that at the moment, because the levers that you and I would have pulled back in the day, they're just not quite ready to pull all those levers. So we keep it simple. And we're still having trouble executing it. So that's our goal as a coach, is to educate. The Monday to Friday is really important. So not having no excuses, but not having a match practice during the week. We can't really work on the scenarios we'd like to. And 6-day break this week, so it'll be a challenge again with the personnel. But yeah, putting that aside, we're slowly getting better, but you've probably not seen it just yet.
More on the positive slant, Oscar Allen, one of only 2 players in the league to have kicked multiple goals in a game this year, every game he's played. Jeremy Cameron, the other one of those, who's clearly having a good year. How do you assess his year after missing 12 months of footy?
Yeah, well, I think I said in another interview, pro rata, like how many inside 50s per goal that he'd be kicking it'd have to be number 1.
Kicked his first goal from a non-set shot on the weekend as well.
Pretty good snap, yeah. But we're not averaging 60 inside 50s. So for him to be up there, he's kicking well as well. His conversion's pretty good. He works so hard on it. And he's not all about goals. He's not, I'm sure he's like most forwards. He wants to snag a couple early so the game can settle. But he might have learned that from JK.
Yeah, well, did you think he learnt, a lot of his craft to me looks like he studied JK for the years he had with him. Even his goal kicking, his routine, his work rate.
Different players, but yeah, no doubt what JK would have done, and JD in the last 4 or 5 years for Aussie, has helped him be, he's not the complete player just yet, but he's a young leader, as you know. He's very astute, understands the game, and he wants to help.
I know you don't like me asking too many questions, mate, so let's get into the fans.
Oh, this is...
I'll start getting harder hitting if you're not careful. No, I won't, actually.
You don't filter these questions at all, I know that. So.
Well, they do. Thousands come in, and we get the very best too. Michael Croy asks, our game plan is becoming clearer to see with all our players flat out. showing real intensity. Is the higher intensity they're all working at contributing to injury in any way, do you think?
I hope not. No, I feel like, we've got to play that way. That's where the game is. So whether we need to keep adapting or not, it's probably a deeper question to ask. I don't know the science behind that, but we're playing in a way that we think we can sustain. But unfortunately at the moment we're struggling to do it for 4 quarters. I don't think the injuries are coming through that way of playing. We're not alone in that system.
Yes. Miguel Sanchez asked, Greg Clark covered more ground than any other player but had 13 touches. Can you talk about his role?
Yeah, he's the role that everyone wants to play.
Is it the Maston role, is it?
Maston role. Oh, he's playing on the wing at the moment, and the wingers play with balance. So they're there to protect the open side of the ground and then also support defence from the open side of the ground. And everyone in the league is doing the same thing on the wings pretty much. And some are doing it better and finding a bit more of the ball. But the best runners in the comp now are all wingers, and they're all running around the 15k mark. And what used to be rewarded with lots of possessions now is probably a 12 to 20 possession game. So we're not surprised that Clarkie's not getting a heap of the ball.
Yeah, right. Hatter, what sort of position would you like to fill at the mid-season draft if you guys take a pick?
Well, there's a few spots I'd like to fill at the moment. So the challenge will be, if we choose to do it, is do we draft for the now or draft for the future? So that's probably the question before the position.
Do you know the answer to that yet?
I do.
That's from me. You do? Okay. That's good.
We need to talk through list management first about what direction we take.
Okay, very good.
If we take it.
Keys, I could see the support and compassion you showed Jai Cully. Do some injuries hit harder than others for you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's the same area where Nick hurt himself. So for whatever reason, I thought of Nick as well. So, and then he hasn't even been here a year yet, Jai. So, and he's 19. So all those things flick in your mind really, really quickly, and then you've got to move on to the game. So yeah, he handled it really well. I spoke to him about how to try and manage the rest of the game, and then we deal with recovery and operations and family, all that this week, and then gets on with the rehab. I know he's going to give it everything he can to get back for round 1 next year, so that's not a problem. But yeah, dealing with that emotions, it's always a challenge.
Better me than you asks, what other players are you thinking about rotating the captaincy until Boots returns, if you rotate it at all?
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like our leadership group at the moment, without Luke and McGovern, we've just seen some real growth with their presence around the track and on field. And Liam Duggan and Oscar Allen and Dom Sheed, those guys are the ones who I think would appreciate a bit more exposure, flipping the coin, doing the speech before the game, connected with me a tiny bit differently, and still trying to play well, which I think Tom's worked through, Tom Barras, and on the weekend probably played his best game for the year. So it's not a one and done type of thing, but exposing the guys to that type of leadership, it's important because it might pop up at certain stages this year, and it's good for their growth.
I know this is from me again, no fans. Just got to warn you, because sometimes you get grumpy. But
were you ever captain?
Well, I can talk about that if you want. Once. Okay. You gave it to me once in a pre-season game. I lost the toss. I had about 4 touches. I think I got dropped for the next game, so that went well. But I was wondering...
Did we win though?
No, we didn't, no. So, yeah, went well in all aspects. But you've captained your own side at AFL level. Is it... You're a delegator with some things. You can't handle everything as a head coach. Is that an area that you try to influence a little bit more or help, given that you've experienced
the captaincy?
It? Yeah, captaincy of guys that are experiencing
I used to think I could do that in a way that, what I used to do, but then we got Shannon Hearn, and he just did it his way. And so I think you've got to get out of the way a little bit and just expose them to whether they like to do the speeches, whether they like to delegate to... I remember Dean Cox used to do the speeches pre-game. I don't know when that was Bung was captain or not, but
maybe a bit of Glassy, yeah.
Glassy would flip the coin and Coxie would do the talking. So I think whatever the individual prefers to do, as long as they don't think they need to do everything, and that's what happens a bit early on. Other than Shannon, most young leaders will come in and try and impose a bit differently than their personality, and eventually they just fall back to who they are. So that's what I suspect. Tommy's done, Luke Shuey's done, and McGovern when he's gone through it, so that's the next process.
And what could have been if you hadn't dropped me for that next
week?
Yeah,
that's right. It could have been I don't know what could happen, actually.
That's it for
Nothing
this
could happen.
week's episode from us, Simmo. Thanks to ECU. Friday night footy at Optus Stadium this week against the Suns. All the best, Simmo.
Thanks, mate.